Hi there, this is Steve Spurrier.
Hey, check this
you
out.
You can join
So I stopped
University
buying
of Florida
random
Hall
lotto
of Famer Shane Matthews and also the two-time SEC Player of the Year every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, opinions, and some of the biggest names in sports. You can find him on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or you can watch him live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition. It is PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got a lot to talk about. All the American and National League Championship Series are set. The Mets with Pete Alonso come from behind. So 3-run dong by him last night to opposite field. So congratulations to him and the New York Mets. And now JC's a Met fan.
No, I'm not. I'm a Yankee fan, but
that shirt looked like it was an orange and blue initially.
No, brother. I had the Mets last night though on the money line. Let's go, Mr. Met.
Who picked the Falcons in our Peachland Dental picks?
No, I think we both took Tampa.
No, we didn't, friend.
You took Atlanta?
Yeah, I did. You're terrible at bookkeeping.
Well, I left my pad back at the.
Yes, I took Atlanta, and you go. I'll take the Bucks.
Okay.
So I didn't get to see one play of it.
Very good.
It looks like my man Kirk Cousins threw for 1,000,000 yards.
He threw for 509 yards. He hit Kadarrell Hodge for a touchdown pass on a little post in overtime, and he split the defenders and walked into the end zone to the glee of 70,000 fans. Yeah, I think the Falcons played 3 straight home games or something like that. And so they'll hit the road next week to Carolina, but they're 3-2. They should win next week. They'll be 4-2. It's a resurgence of a fan base in Atlanta. And listen, Tampa Bay's 3-2 as well. Baker played great, was throwing darts. Defense couldn't stop Atlanta. And Kirk Cousins, who pulled it out again in the last, minute and 10 seconds of the game to get them in field goal range. And Koo, who had earlier hit a field goal from about 54 yards, hit a 52-yarder to force the OT. They won the coin flip, and Tampa never saw the ball back, QB.
Yeah. So anyway, I woke up, saw the score, and said, yep, I'm taking another game lead against JC while he's over there working on his suntan. We got a couple of YouTubers here I need to get to. Lee wants to know, this is brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Shane, does Napier get fired Saturday Saturday night if UCF gets the win? I don't know. I don't know why people really care.
Well, they want
to what's that?
They want to change, QB.
Okay, so they think that somebody on the staff is going to make a change. They're not. Okay?
No, I'm
just going to leave it at that. Well, you are what you are.
Yeah, QB. Listen, they just want to see something different.
That doesn't mean they're going to see anything different.
Well, it might. Yeah, no, it doesn't mean that, but it does mean that the search will be on, and I think that's what people get. Because listen, if they lose to UCF and they go 2-3 with that schedule remaining, you can pretty much write it off. All right, the season will be in the recycle bin, or not even that. It'll be in the trash bin. So I got a feeling that, listen, this is a game where Central Florida's coming up here with probably nothing to really lose when you think about it. And, they're the directional school traveling to the big, bad, mighty Gators, home of the Gators, the swamp, all that. They're the ones who are going to – I just want Florida, listen, coming off an off week to play loose and to have some fun out there, if that's possible.
I think Florida's a bunch of points against UCF. I just don't know if we can stop them.
Yeah.
Iceman says, because we want to change, duh. Okay. But has interim coaches ever worked anywhere? Has anybody ever give me I would love for our statisticians that watches this program, tell me when a team was 2-2, 2-3, 3-2, they make a coaching change, this team wins like 10 straight games. I've never seen it.
No, but the season will be – look, they lose tomorrow, forget it. I don't think folks are even thinking about the rest of the schedule. I think they're thinking about changing the whole leadership structure.
Well, that's different. Okay, the guy didn't ask me, do I think he's going to be retained at the end of the year? I do not think that's going to happen. I think it doesn't matter what happens. You will have a new football coach next year.
Not even if they win some games?
I think what did I just say?
I know what you just said. I'm just asking. What if he goes 7-5?
That would be a modern miracle.
Okay. Well, miracles.
JBB on YouTube wants to know, do you think it's a lack of talent on defense or just bad coaching that has caused Florida's defense to be bad? It's been going on for a while with multiple coaches and multiple players. I think it's a combination of both.
They don't get to the backfield, QB. There's no edge rush.
Okay, hang on. Jeff responded. Galen Hall became an interim coach and had success. Well, he also had probably 18 NFL draft picks.
They did have success with Galen. Okay. I was there.
Okay, that's different. That's totally different.
But this defense just doesn't get to the other team's backfield. They've got something like eight sacks or 8 hurries or something, and that's after 4 games. That's not going to cut it, folks.
Coach O took over at USC, but I think he had a bunch of NFL guys too. There are, I'm sure, like you said, I knew there would be some examples, but more times than not, it does not work out.
At that point, I think you're just counting the days to the end of the year, QB, to tell you.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. So, somebody on here wanted to know where O'Brien, is Lane still the best guy for Florida if Ole Miss doesn't make the playoffs? I think whether they make the playoffs, they win the national championship, whether they miss the playoffs, it does not matter.
And forget about Bill O'Brien. He loves Boston. That's his area.
Bill O'Brien, no.
No, forget it.
Who even brought that name up?
Well, you just said O'Brien.
No. The guy's name is O'Brien.
Oh, excuse me. My bad. Okay.
No, Bill O'Brien I think you have a good chance, better chance than Bill O'Brien.
I do too.
All right. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Delicious, high-quality protein to build muscles and electrolytes to help hydrate. Core Power, replenish, repair, rebuild. All right. Tony says the 84 team was loaded. Pell was not fired because the team was awful like this circumstance. Great point, Tony. That's why he's one of our statisticians.
Yeah, Tony comes up with some good historical nuggets that helps us remember when times were good. 84 was a good year. 85 was a good year. Even 86. I just love that period of time, even though the Gators didn't get to play in the postseason in 84. It was a shaft job.
Andy wants to know where you can get Core Power. You can buy that at any grocery store.
Core Power, there you go.
Any grocery store.
I'm going to go buy some. I'm going to go buy some today here at the Anastasia.
Go support your friends at Core Power.
I shall. QB, one thing I've learned about Lane, and I think you know as well, and you've said this, is that in the big games, the guy does not respond and does not get the result. And when I say big games, I'm talking about matchups against teams that are highly ranked,
superior than his team,
or highly ranked. Either one, you could say either. And even though Kentucky's not highly ranked, it was their first, I guess, tough game when you look at that soft ass patty cake schedule. And I think the soft ass patty cake schedule actually hurts you. You don't learn anything about your team. And I think you learned a lot from the Kentucky game. And I would expect Mississippi to go back on another run. I think they're going to beat South Carolina because I think they're just better. Even though the game is in Columbia, I may take the 9 points, but I think Mississippi gets the win. I just think they got too much talent, QB, to let this thing get out of control. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. They're still going to win some games.
Yeah.
Would it be great if they lose 3 games? Yes. Kevin says on.
But if you want them to run a guy out of town, is what you want.
No. Look, I'm just telling y'all. People ask my opinions. Everybody has their opinions on, regardless if it's football, politics, the teachers at the local high school, whatever it is. I'm just telling you my thoughts.
Okay, I can't believe I'm just reading this. This guy, and listen, no disrespect, O'Brien, but this is an awful, awful take. He says Billy isn't the problem. The problem is the lack of NFL players on the roster. And
that's part of it.
And if the NIL doesn't pay the top players, how can any coach win? Dude, Urban Meyer never needed an NIL to win.
You're talking two different eras.
I get it. But the point is you got to recruit 4- and 5-star players.
Well, they are doing that. So, I mean, they have DJ and LJ, but
I haven't heard LJ's name
Again,
all year.
if you're winning, here's the formula to winning in today's football. You have a good head coach that people want to play for. You have a good NIL, and you're winning football games. It's that simple. If
But
you're winning,
you got to recruit the players, QB.
Okay, did you not hear what I just said?
I heard exactly what you said. You forgot to say anything about recruiting good players.
I said the good players will want to come play for you if you're winning and you have a good head coach with a good staff and you have a good NIL. That's exactly what the teams that are winning right now have.
Yeah, they develop and recruit good players, and the NIL
because they've been winning. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Hey, listen, I mean,
like if NIL had hit when Steve Spurrier was coaching or an Urban Meyer, Florida would continually still be winning at a high level because people want to go play where they are winning football games. And if you're winning football games, the good players will come and they will get paid because the fans will support the NIL when you're winning football games.
Right. The only thing you're forgetting to add in that equation is how do you win football games?
You have to have good players and good. You are not.
No,
go get some Q-tips.
We're talking about the same thing. We're talking about the same thing. We're talking about the same thing. You only
get some Q-tips. You're not listening.
You only get good players by recruiting them. The NIL. Listen, let me tell you.
JC. But my point, what you're not listening is, I don't give a damn if you got Nick Saban coaching School X. He can recruit a couple of good players, but you got to have more than one or two, and you have to have a full roster of them.
That's what he did. That's exactly what he did.
Yeah. Because he won games.
Well, he was 7-6 in his first year, QB. So
I understand that.
Okay. Well, nobody's talking about Nick Saban in 2007.
Okay, let's just move on because we're talking about the same thing in different ways.
Okay. Fair enough.
People want to know how I talked to Kerwin yesterday. It's rough up there, people. They're going to play a game with nobody in the stands. A few students will be allowed to come. It's a disaster.
Yeah.
His town's not as bad as the other ones, but that whole area, it does not make sense what's going on.
Yeah, this is the thing that's happened at Florida State. They bring in all these guys in the transfer portal. There's absolutely no continuity. There's no loyalty. These guys bail at the first moment they hear some bad news. And look what they're left with. They're not left with anything solid. And that's because he hasn't been, I don't think, recruiting at the same level as some of the teams that are beating his ass. And they're 1-4 or 1-3.
I think Florida State will play a lot better with a different quarterback. They have talent. Their quarterback has killed them.
Yeah, we're going
absolutely killed them.
I'll find out because this weekend, probably one of the two best teams in the ACC shows up. And
no, I know that, but I guarantee you they will look better than they have the entire year on offense.
Their defense is soft and their offensive line is soft. I just think when you rent players and they show absolutely nothing toward giving back nothing to the school in terms of they're just rentals, and then they leave. None of those players even wanted to play in the bowl game against Georgia QB, right?
Yeah, well, it's not just their school; it's a lot of schools. Lee says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plum, Lane can get players to UF through the portal and recruiting high school kids and get a great defensive coordinator and good position coaches. Well, he supposedly has one of the top 5 staffs, according to the Pro Football Focus people. Kids want to play for exciting coaches at UF. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say is if you're at a major brand, you're winning games, you have what kids want to play, they will go. They will go easily to that school. A couple of texts on the Titan MR text line. This is not sure who it's from, but it says, I have an opinion too. $750 flipping dollars is a freaking joke. They have no problem giving millions upon millions to illegal immigrants, but not Americans. WT, I agree. I don't know how anybody with any common sense thinks that's a good thing.
The most appalling thing I've heard all week. It's so true. These people don't care. They just don't care. They take photo ops. That's what they do. Photo ops.
F45 training merges 3 leading edge fitness training styles into one 45-minute functional training class. Visit F45training.com to learn more. We got JC here on the Titan MR hotline. We're going to have Edgar Thompson, second portion of today's program. JC, let's go ahead and get to our Peachland Dental weekend picks. Peachland Dental Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry, Port Charlotte surrounding areas. Go check them out at peachlanddental.com.
This week we have week 6 in college football, and this is a really cool weekend. And go look at the schedule for October the 19th too. When you see that schedule, that's going to be another great one. Let's start in the ACC today. And in the ACC, Rhett Lashley and his Mustangs coming off an absolute ass kicking of that Seminole team we were just talking about that has not.
And you picked them.
I picked them to beat who?
You picked Florida State in that game.
They are SMU is playing at Louisville, catching 6.5. I know you're going to take Louisville.
Yeah, I am going to take the Cardinals.
All right, I'm going to take Rhett Lashley and the Mustangs. Get 6.
It's not a bad pick. Not a bad pick.
Iowa is going on the road in the Big Ten to play Ohio State, another home game for the Buckeyes. They never, ever, notice this, they never played back-to-back road games at Ohio State. Not that I can remember. Oops, there goes the screen. All right, Iowa is catching 18.5. Can this team, with McNamara at quarterback, can they score?
I have not watched one play of the Buckeyes this year, nor the Hawkeyes.
Yeah.
I'm going to just go on the Hawkeyes, say they still play pretty good defense.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pull for the Hawkeyes in an upset. I'm going to take them.
I hate taking points with a team that can't score. I don't know what.
I thought they got a new offensive coordinator.
I thought so too, but their scores were low. But maybe.
Well, usually you can change your coordinators all you want. It determines what the head coach does.
Well, the Buckeyes have a big one next week. Maybe we can catch them looking ahead. I want to say they play at Oregon, either next week or the week after. So, that's one of those areas. Yeah, they are. They're traveling to Oregon next week. But like I was saying, they never play back-to-back road games. I just noticed that. Rutgers in the Big Ten, staying there, playing at Nebraska. -6.5 Nebraska. I'm going to take Shiano and Rutgers. I know Nebraska's having a nice little year, a good start, but I think Rutgers' unbeaten team is going to keep it inside of 6.5. They may not win, but they'll keep it inside of 6.5.
I'll go with Nebraska to be different with you at home.
Yeah.
Real quick, 31 Ember says, Shane, what do you think about Kirk Cignetti for the? I think he's a tremendous football coach, but I don't think there's any way we hire him.
You've got 2 names, QB. Why don't you just tell everybody to quit asking and just.
What are the 2 names?
Your name is Lane Kiffin, and you said no. I think you've only said one name.
Yeah, I was curious who the other one was.
All right. Those Seminoles 1-4, 1-3. Who knows? They've given up. They're catching 2 touchdowns at home against Clemson. But take that number.
I will take the semis getting the points. They won't win the game, but they'll play better this week because of the quarterback. And I don't even know who the quarterback is. They could roll you out there, JC, and you be better.
I'll take Clemson. I don't care. That's so bad. Give me Michigan and Washington up in Seattle. You know what? Michigan is one-dimensional. But
what is the line?
It's 1.5 points. It's almost a pick. I'm taking Michigan. They're one-dimensional, and that's good enough. Their defense is that good.
Yeah, Washington.
They don't score
I'm going to take the Wolverines too.
Yeah, Washington lost so many players from last year's finals team. The Canes get on the plane and travel 5.5 hours to San Francisco for a ACC. No, is Cal in the ACC or the Big Ten? They're in the ACC.
They're in the ACC. This is a conference game.
A big ACC matchup between Miami and Cal. Tell me how ridiculous.
Somebody said on Twitter they're calling this woke versus Coke.
But how ridiculous is it that Miami and California are playing a conference game? Give me the Golden Bears +10.
I love the Golden Bears in this game.
Yeah, Justin Wilcox.
Okay, I'm going to respond to this one more time. Jimmy, we talked about it earlier. You must have just tuned in. This is on YouTube, brought by Galen Hall is an interim coach following Charlie Pell. As our good friend Tony of the program says, Charlie was not fired due to a bad football team. Galen took over a damn football team that has probably 15 to 18 guys that played in the National Football League too. It wasn't. Regardless, move on, JC.
Yeah, Andrew says I like all of America's teams. Well, I like the Yankees since I was 6.
You like the Cowboys too, though.
Wow. That's my wife's team. Okay, I have to like them. That's my wife's team. But I was a Rams fan growing up, so I hated the Cowboys. I hate the Lakers because I'm a Celtics fan, and I don't really care for Hollywood unless I'm visiting. Then I like it. All right, Missouri at A&M, SEC football. Texas A&M laying 2.5. Mizzou had a struggle last week against Orlando.
They were off.
They were off. It was the last game they played against Vanderbilt. Big struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Probably should have lost, honestly. And but they're traveling to Texas A&M, and I'm going to go with the momentum of the Aggies laying less than a field goal at home. I think they will beat Missouri.
I'm going to take the Tigers. I just think they have better offensive personnel than A&M. And I'm going to go with the offense. Real quick, we got a text here on the Titan Mar text line from Robert in Fort Myers. Wants to know where Brady Ackerman is now. He hasn't heard from him in a couple of years. Brady's been out in the Texas area
in Frisco
for the last 4 or 5 years, living out there. He does not coach ball anymore. He's just a regular salesman.
He works at Verizon and he lives in Frisco.
So if you need a cell phone, call Brady.
And he just got married. He's recently married to a lovely lady named Rachel.
Okay, Greg, JC, real quick, make this very short. Greg wants to know why was Pell fired then? Illegal payments.
It was violations of the NCAA.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with coaching.
And, there was a lot of things he did that were really weird, like spying on teams like Louisville. It's just stupid.
But my point is it had nothing to do with his coaching.
No.
It was all rules violations.
Correct. That's exactly right. Bulldogs coming off heartbreaker in Tuscaloosa, but still very much a factor for the playoffs. They get the oldest rivalry. This is the oldest rivalry in the SEC. Auburn and Georgia. They've played the most. And their 2 legendary coaches went to opposite schools. Pat Dye went to Georgia, and Vince Dooley went to Auburn. But both coached at the other school. And
that's great insight you're giving our listeners.
This tremendous information that you didn't know.
I did know that, by the way.
You did? Okay.
Yes.
Auburn is getting 22, and they're just screaming down there in Southwest Georgia. Auburn to try to find some offense. Peyton Thorne's not the answer. The other kid's not ready. What's Hugh Freeze going to do? They're getting 22 points, but I don't think they're going to score. So I'm going to take Georgia in a recovery game.
Yeah, I think Auburn's defense is pretty damn good.
They'll give up the second half, QB. They'll quit.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna take the Auburn Tigers losing by 21 points.
All right, I think Georgia. That's a winning bet, dude. All winning tickets.
I think Georgia's gonna probably. I think for some reason I think they're gonna sputter the first quarter or two.
Yeah.
Auburn's gonna muddy the game up. Georgia's gonna be having kind of a hangover. And then they win by 21.
I don't think Auburn's going to get a first down in the first half.
Well, that could happen too.
South Carolina at home getting 9. We talked about this earlier. That's a lot of points at home. Since the game's in Columbia, I'm going to get them to cover, but I think Mississippi wins the game by a touchdown.
All right, I'm going to take the Rebels, Black Bears, Land Sharks.
Yeah,
to win by 10 points.
Yeah, okay, could very well happen. Good game here in Fayetteville. Kind of a sneaky game for Tennessee with a look ahead to Alabama next week. And I do think that matters. I don't know, but I think it does. But they're playing the Hogs, and they're laying 13.5. They've got all the things you need to win it all. Tennessee does. But I think Arkansas is going to keep it inside of 2 touchdowns to give me Arkansas.
I like the Hogs. I think they can score. Taylon Green is a very athletic quarterback. He makes some – you know what? He's that quarterback that drives you insane. He makes 3 unbelievable plays, and he drops a snap and – fumble turnover,
yes.
Just crazy stuff.
Yeah, but they're better.
I like the Hogs.
Okay.
Ken in High Springs on the Titan MR text line says, Shane, let's get Kerwin here. JC, you, me, and Buddy, and whoever else, let's put up $1 million apiece to start.
I'm in. I've been hammering.
I got better things to do.
Kerwin Bell. I've been wishing.
I love Kerwin.
15 years, and they laughed then, and they're not paying attention now. It's too bad. Alabama, will they have a letdown? Vandy is a much better team. They are. They should have beat Missouri. They're much more athletic. than they've been. They've got a quarterback who's won big games in his past at New Mexico State. But they're playing a different animal. I think Alabama wins, but Vandy covers the 22.5.
I'm gonna lean with the Commodores too.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I just think, I mean, you got to naturally, there's going to be, Alabama's not going to be into it. Because the atmosphere is terrible.
Well,
the stadium's terrible.
Yeah.
And they're coming off that huge last minute win. Vandy loses by 21.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I got. 42-20. One. UCF is a 2.5-point favorite. You do not pick the Gator games, but I'm going to say get a coin out and flip it. It's inside a field goal. I really couldn't tell you. I was thinking, and I would have taken UCF if they had looked better against Colorado, but Colorado exposed them in some areas that maybe the Gators can expose as well. I don't know if Florida can, but I'm going to root for them to beat the directional school out of Orlando, so we don't have to listen to how great they are, although Colorado smacked them around pretty well.
Well, so we're the underdog now, right? At one point, we were the favorite.
Florida's catching 2.5.
Yeah, somebody said we were favored by 3 earlier in the week.
Maybe, but all the money's going on Central Florida.
Yeah, it's a game Florida has to win at home.
Oh, I mean,
simple as that.
It's this big. It's huge. Forget about all the stuff, all about the coaching and all. Forget about all that. This is a pride game. You can't let your rival from an hour and a half south of you that's never had a football tradition come up here and smack you around on your home field. You can't let that happen at night. I got to think Florida's going to respond. Buffalo at Houston. This is a tough game.
Hang on, hold off on that one. Let me answer Andy's question here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. It says, "Didn't I say Diego Pavia is a Tebow-like leader?" In my opinion, he is. He's not a great thrower. He'll run he'll run over you. He ain't real big, but he's a grinder, competitor, and you'll see that if you watch them play Alabama.
I like him. I like him a lot. And they beat Auburn's tail in last year. They kicked their ass in Auburn. It was one of the most glorious.
Well, he wasn't on the team.
He wasn't?
Diego Pavia was playing for New Mexico State last year.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, I got you. I thought you meant Vandy played Auburn.
No, they beat Auburn, and it was wonderful. Buffalo is at Houston. The Texans should have lost, but the Jaguars don't know how to win, and the Texans should have lost that game. But I'm taking the Bills on a bounce back from last week's humiliation in Baltimore. No way they lose 2 in a row. They're too good, and Houston's ready to lose. They should have lost last week. Give me the Bills, and I think the Bills win by at least a touchdown.
I love the Buffalo Bills, but this game is in Houston, correct?
Yes, it is.
I will take C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, he's great.
And the Texans to beat my Bills.
Yeah, your Bills can't lose 2 in a row. They'll never catch KC. They'll never do it. They have to win this game. And then the other game is a traditional game between 2 traditional, legendary teams, Dallas and Pittsburgh. Dallas at Pittsburgh. Justin Fields will start, I think, in front of Wilson. Dallas is catching 2.5. I think it's going to be a field goal type game, but I'm going to take Dallas so the wife is happy with me.
Good gracious.
Yeah, you're going to take the Steelers. Go ahead and get the Steelers.
I am going to take the Steelers because they're home. Justin Fields playing. Maybe they'll kick a bunch of long field goals.
Boswell's good. Boswell's good, and that's our picks contest. We got a couple different ones, a lot of similar ones. I think the game of the week in the SEC though is Texas A&M and Missouri, and I also will keep a sharp eye on that Tennessee-Arkansas game because Tennessee's got the game of their year next week against Alabama. I think it's next week. No, it's not. It's not next week. Florida's playing Tennessee next week. It's coming up. But Florida and Tennessee is a big rivalry. In spite of Florida's struggles, Tennessee will be waiting for them, and they always want to beat the Gators. So that's next week.
Yeah. Real quick, Chris from Mike on the Titan Mark text line says, Shane Frangie told a story the other day about how Muschamp wanted to hire Kerwin as his OC, but the administration wouldn't allow it. Do you have any more info on why they hired Charlie Weiss over Kerwin? I don't know. I know that Kerwin met with him for many, many hours one day up at JU. But I don't know. I didn't know anything about the administration not allowing it. I don't know what happened there. Will would still be our coach.
It's just amazing to me how confident you and I are and people like us about how successful Kerwin Bell would be here, and he doesn't even get in the chat rooms hardly.
Well,
they don't.
A lot of people don't know that stuff. I know it
How do you not know
firsthand.
it?
But what I'm saying is, if Will Muschamp was still the head coach, as great as he recruited and how great we were on defense, he just never had offense. Kerwin would have taken it, and I really believe Will Muschamp would still be our coach.
Well, he would have had to let Kerwin do what Kerwin wants to do. I heard a lot of times Will kind of
That's how I talked about this the other day. I don't know if you were on the show or somebody else, but these defensive minded head coaches,
they got to get
they can hire Mark Stoops. He's hired a different coordinator, it seems like, every year on offense.
They got to get the governor off the pedal, man. You got to let these offensive guys do what they do. But Kerwin, like you said, he's only going to be a head guy. And how the administration doesn't even float the rumor out there about Kerwin Bell is beyond me. Why they won't call him is beyond me. Maybe they have called him, but I don't think they have. It's beyond.
They have not called him. I would know if they've called him.
Beyond comprehension that this guy is not considered. He was a great Florida Gator. That's the problem, QB. It's what I told you 100 million times, is that these clowns running the football program are not Gators. They are not. They do not know Florida football. They do not know the history of it. They only go back to 2008. That's what they go back to, and maybe 95, maybe. And that's it. That's all they know. They do not know what Kerwin Bell meant to this program.
All right, JC, go swim some laps or do something.
I know. I'm going
to we got to get to Edgar Thompson. Have a great weekend. Good luck on your picks. That's JC on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Tent. Take a quick timeout, come back. We'll get what Edgar has to say today.
Ask him about
the UCF game.
Kerwin Bell.
He doesn't give a damn about Kerwin. He's worried about what the Gators are going to do the rest of the year. We'll take a quick timeout. We'll be right back.
All right.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, Titan MRI, Meldon Law, Peachland Dental, QC Kinetics, Campus USA Credit Union, Dave & Buster's. Gridiron sponsors, CertaPro Painters, Comfort Temp, UF Bookstores, Quality Plumbing, Silverback Concrete, Rules Ogra State Farm, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, F45, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Miapa Latin Cafe, Gator Bait Media, Aikido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, MG&A Wealth, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Nest and Wild, Florida Victorious, Electronics World. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Florida Cracker is the brand for original Floridians. Great food and southern hospitality in the center of the universe, Brooksville, Florida, floridacracker.com. We're going to go now to the Titan Emerald Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp, the one, the only from the Orlando Sentinel, Edgar Thompson. Good morning, Edgar. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, Shane? Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. You too. So Edgar, we've had multiple questions, whether it's Facebook Live, the Titan MR text line, YouTube. If Billy loses tomorrow night, do you think that's his last game?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
I just don't. What's the benefit here? We keep talking about it. We're beating this thing to death, and
we have.
And talking, it's nonstop. I hear it anytime I see someone at the gym or just someone I know. Everyone wants to talk about it all the time. I don't have the answer. Obviously, it's those decisions are being made behind closed doors by only a couple of people. But my sense is that isn't where they want to go. And who's the interim coach going to be? We always keep hearing Dan Enos. What's Dan Enos going to bring to the situation? What's he going to? He's going to have to handle all the media stuff and do the pregame and do the radio show. And there's all these things, and Billy will handle all that stuff with optimism, positivity, determination, whether he's playing out the string or not. He's just going to do it the right way. And unless it's like you're sitting at 2-5 heading to the bye week, which is possible for sure, maybe that's when you do it. Maybe if you get beaten, you're 2-7 after Texas, maybe that's when you do it. I don't know. Are they not going to win on Saturday? I would pick them to win this game personally, but I don't know why. I probably picked them to win all the games. But I think they should have a talent edge on this team. If Florida does not have better talent than UCF, then I don't know what's going on.
UCF has some good players.
They do.
One of their better players has opted out. He's going into the transfer portal.
All that.
But yeah, I think Florida will score. As I've been saying for the last 4 years, it's going to determine on the front seven of the defense.
No, and Gus is going to have the tempo rolling, and the run game is a lot of discipline required to defend that run game. Billy's talked about it. And this team, Jason Marshall Monday night, I was kind of probing on this point because about the alignment that Triquez Bridges brought up after the Mississippi State game, saying we weren't lined up for the tempo
all
the time. So I asked Jason Marshall about it. He said, we were standing there waiting for the play call. That can't, what is that? How's that happen?
Well, here's what I don't understand. And it's not just us that plays up-tempo teams. Other teams have the same issue. But every team that I've been a part of that plays tempo type teams, the reason people do tempo is to keep you out of personnel changes, whether you go nickel, dime, a big package or whatever. You can't, if you're on the field going fast, you can't substitute, right? Well, they also have to keep you in a certain base defense. And so from a defensive standpoint, you got to say, okay, this week, predominantly, we're going to be in this 95% of the time. There's nothing else we can do, because if we don't line up like this, or our kids don't know that the ball's getting ready to snap, we need to be lined up, they're going to gas you. Now, they still may gas you, but you have to give your team a chance. I don't know if that makes sense.
Of course it does.
It's no different than our good friend Chris Harry, who loves the Redskins, sent me a clip that he saw on Twitter that one of the scoring drives that the Redskins had, they were in 13 personnel, no huddle, which means they had one back, 3 tight ends. That means you only had one actual wide receiver. They spread out. They had condensed formations, heavy packages, but they went fast. The Arizona Cardinals couldn't substitute. And they had their 3 tight ends were like wide receivers. I can't remember. It's like the Zach Ertz and those type of guys. So when they spread them out, they had advantages. When they condensed the formation, they had advantages. So as a defense, you can only do one thing. That's why I always say offenses dictate what they're going to get for the most part when they line up. So I'm rambling.
No. And so if you're subbing a lot, which we see with Florida,
you can't against fast-paced teams.
And you're not getting the call in quickly enough, which we've seen now for a couple of years at least. I don't remember 2022, but I know last year that was an issue. And it was a big one at Kentucky, if you recall. And that Kentucky game was a bloodbath. And they weren't lined up, and they just got run over. And I don't know why this is continuing to happen. So they've worked on it. They say this bye week, they have solved a lot of these in-between play issues. And they talked about these 3 spirited practices, best bye week Billy's seen. Look, Billy doesn't, I get it. I mean, and I see you, the skepticism, and I'm skeptical too, and Billy's the one person who doesn't think he's going anywhere. Now, Billy in the back of his mind might realize, I got to win 5 of the next 8, and that's a Herculean challenge here. But I think Billy believes that he can still save himself, and he's trying to. And they pushed hard during the bye week, apparently, and we'll see what if they, improved at all there, because they need to drastically.
Yeah, and I love we practiced hard, we did this, we were talking about bye weeks on my show yesterday or the day before. The starters, the skill guys, I remember in our bye weeks, we went out there, we'd be in shorts.
Yep.
We'd throw routes on air for about 30, 40 minutes, and then we'd stand there and watch all the freshmen and backups and walk-ons scrimmage.
That isn't what they did this time.
That's what my point is. You can, and Coach Spur and I talked about this on Inside the Huddle the other day. His whole staff they'd take 3 days off. They'd go to the beach and they'd body surf and do all that stuff. Can you imagine Billy and them taking days off? There's no way. But he gave us a ton of days off. It's just how everybody does it different ways. And I said, you can go out there and you can tackle and you can do the old school Oklahoma drill every freaking day. It can be bloody. Or you can just go out there and have a walkthrough. It all comes down to how in the hell do you perform in a uniform when the lights turn on and there's 90,000 people in the stands? That's all that matters, right?
Well, true, but I think this team, given what we've seen and how disorganized it's looked at times defensively, I think they used it as an opportunity to try to shore that up. Again, we'll see if they were able to. We'll see if they've changed some of the personnel, which Billy talked about after the Mississippi State game, if you recall. He said we might have to. He talked about how, I forget the exact quote, but how they were just gashing him in the middle. And how you almost take it, he didn't say personally, but that kind of like attacks what you're about. It's like,
I agree with that. I agree with that.
The point. You remember when he talked about that? And then he said, we might have to make some changes. Let's see if he does. Let's see.
That's the key, because, when I hear all these people talk about, the coach didn't have his team prepared, when you lose a game. Well, you can win a game and not have a great plan. But the whole take it personal, sometimes the other team just whips your ass. I'm talking about the one-on-one battles within a game, you know what I mean? Sometimes their guys better than you are. I don't know how good we are. Like you said, we don't get coached up and lined up correctly, but then we don't execute when we are there to make a tackle, or so to speak. So
here's what he said, Shane. It's discouraging because it's at the core of what you do. When you're a defense, you can't hold the point in the middle of the defense, So Mark Parcells model, if you build teams inside out, you better be able to stop the run inside.
Edgar, answer this question.
Sure.
From Joseph on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. The question worth asking is, are there any games or game we could win that could save Billy's job?
You got to win some other ones with it, but God, if he beats Georgia or something, right? Wins at Tennessee. If he wins some game that you just think there's no way they're going to win, and then wins the games you think they're supposed to win, FSU, Kentucky at home, you got to think.
Do you think we're going to be a favorite over Kentucky at home?
No, they're not favored against UCF. You realize the line was -1 Gators, and now it's +2. The Gators were given 1, now they're getting 2.5. I was joking on our podcast. I thought Gary Condren, I think, put like all his money on this game to make it back, because somebody bet a lot to move the line 3.5, or a lot of people.
Yeah, or either there's somebody or there's people playing that we're not aware of.
Yeah, but bottom line is they're going to have to win the games they're supposed to win and win a couple they're not supposed to. They got to win like 5, right? They got to win like 5
They got to win a lot of games, in my opinion.
And you realize 5 of the next 8 are against teams in the top 13. LSU, Ole Miss, Georgia, Texas, and Ole Miss. There's one other. I'm forgetting. Tennessee. So they have a lot of tough games still coming up, man. This is the easiest of all of them.
Yeah. This text from 727 says, loves the show, Shane. I disagree a little bit about the offense. I agree the defense is clearly the biggest issue for the team. Special teams has improved. but the offense is still a problem. I agree with that. I've never said it wasn't a problem. I just said it's not the problem. He says we're vanilla, predictable. There's no killer instinct to put teams away and score. Offense gets very conservative too often. It's boring to watch. If we strive to continue scoring, we could have won several more games last year, including the FSU game. I don't know about the FSU game. We were not, quarterback was an issue there. The best defense is a strong offense. Look, I've said it 1,000 times on this program. Would I prefer the offense to be more explosive and aggressive? Absolutely. But I see bigger problems on the football team in general. And again, he's very aggressive against teams that he knows we have outmanned. That's what I've noticed over the last few years.
Yeah, you pointed that out.
Will he continue calling games like that? And if I'm him, I would be so reckless calling plays moving forward to give your team a chance at some explosiveness.
Yeah. So here's something, and I thought Mississippi State was encouraging offensively. The 2-quarterback deal worked perfectly, really. The run game you're seeing, there's elements beyond Montrell Johnson. Guys I think should be playing more. Trayon Webb, I thought, ran great. I mean, Ball's explosive. You're seeing the tight end get involved a couple of times. You're seeing some of these other receivers. I think Badger and DK are nice players, right? Mizell has explosiveness. Trey Webb took some reps at practice, apparently. We'll see if they rush him, but I don't know. You want to rush him back. We'll see if he plays. So you're seeing some pieces, right? But the offensive line's been the issue. And Mississippi State had terrible pressure. Their pass rush is the only one in the SEC worse than Florida's. Florida's pass rush has 4 sacks in 3 FBS games. They didn't get it done.
No, I've been saying we have no dudes up there.
UCF, though, has 3 sacks. So here they're coming again against an defensive line that's not pressuring the quarterback and is not very strong. So they definitely should be able to score points against this team. But again, as you say, can they stop, Gus and stop the tempo?
Text on the Titan Mark text line from George. He says, Edgar, your comments on when Billy said that they finally think they found the right 5 to start on the offensive line.
It's about time.
Yeah, that's one thing that's really bothered me for the last few years. And even Mullen did it a lot. And maybe it's the way things have changed in college football, but I don't see a whole lot of other teams doing it. We just rotate way too many players. And I've said it multiple times on here. Your best players need to play until they're tired and they need a break.
They do a lot of too much of that on because the defense, again, back to the defense, I think it causes confusion. Don't you need to have your mind focused? I think Scott Carter used this expression maybe on this show, task at hand. Like I was talking about it to you, like a golf shot. It's not like stepping into a golf shot and swinging immediately. You're like getting settled. You're looking at the target a couple of times. If you're just throwing guys in and out of there, I mean, how are they focused on their assignment? You're not a machine. In terms of the offensive line, yeah, it's a lot of communication. I don't know how all the inner workings of the offensive line, but they constantly talk about communication, the protections the quarterback's calling out. If you're shuffling guys in and out of there, it just doesn't seem it would be as cohesive. I don't know. But you're trying to find the right mix, too. I don't think Crenshaw-Dixon maybe turned out to be quite as formidable as they were hoping at right tackle. Damian George at right guard maybe wasn't performing at the level. So they were trying to figure it out. But they were playing a lot of guys. They were playing Barber only played like 20-some snaps in one of the games. Remember that?
Yeah,
I didn't understand that at all. I mean, isn't he your best offensive lineman or at least perimeter guy?
Yeah. Artie, Florida Panthers on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, Edgar, do you think we will ever see a 06 to 09 run in Gainesville again? Seems further and further away.
Well, I mean, I don't know that Percy Harvin's sitting around by his phone right now. So, yeah. And Tim Tebow was obviously a transcendent player and leader. When does it?
And all those linemen and all those linebackers and all those DBs and all those wide receivers.
Well, yeah, they were loaded, but just having those 2 guys alone, I mean, that's like they've never had a quarterback / tailback receiver combo like that. Even probably the great Spurrier teams. I mean, that was something, those two. And I think Tebow, in terms of like, he was also just such a freaking leader, man. I've told that story about when he got here in 06, probably on your show more than once, and I won't belabor it, but he was going so hard in the mat drills. He was sitting against doing wall squats. Was I telling you this story in here? And they were stacking sandbags up over his head. And he was like, veins popping, tears, sweat, screaming. Another one, another one. And Bubba Caldwell told me that fall about this. And he's like, we weren't going to let that kid show us up. And it was like this guy comes in and just lifted everybody to a whole nother level. And I don't know who the leaders are on this team and everything. And I'm not questioning that there's leadership. I'm just saying I'm not sure they are. But is there somebody like that? And
look, here's the reality. Dan says here 30 NFL players were on the 08 team. Okay.
Well, that's 08. I'm talking about 06, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, 06 probably had at least 20 or 25.
06 was a surprise national champion. 08 was kind of like you figured they would make a run.
Right. But they had a bunch of Zooks guys who played in the NFL.
But guys like Stephen Harris and Joe Cohen, they never got much out of, even though he was a big time recruit. And there were just guys that weren't producing, that when they got around this new culture, started to turn into players that were at least effective. I'm not saying Stephen Harris and Joe Cohen's why they won a national title, but you know what I mean? Guys just started producing in different ways when you have the right coach, the right leadership, and then you have some of those explosive guys like a Percy or Reggie Nelson. I mean, that year, Reggie Nelson had an 06, one of the best seasons defensively a Florida player's ever had.
Yeah. My eyes tell me, coaching has been a problem and talent has been a problem. When you have that combination, you don't win a lot of games.
No.
And I mean, that's the facts. Like, a couple of people said, we've had some players transfer to other schools and be okay. I agree. Some of those guys have played well, but I think they've played better because they've had, whether it's better coaching, however you want to phrase it, but they also have better players around them that allow them to be able. So for example, I don't know what Princely's doing at Ole Miss. Is he a good pass rusher? Yes. Was he lazy as hell at times here at Florida? Absolutely. But if you have Walter Nolan, who's an All-American tackle, and whoever else plays on the Ole Miss D-line, the offense has to worry about those guys. Now Princely's one-on-one. If he's playing for us and the offense ain't worried about anybody else, they can double team the best pass rusher. I'm just using him as an example. So,
they'd be happy to have Princely and Antoine Power Island right now. I will say that.
Right.
They would, because those guys, I thought Ryland had some real bend off the edge.
I think he's very good.
Yeah, I was, when he left, I was like, it's not very good. And then Princely leaving, I was like, God, I wasn't all that torn up by that. But yeah, look, Billy is entering his 30th game, Shane. Okay, 30th at Florida. That we've seen enough at this point I'm not saying I've seen enough get rid of the guy. I'm saying we've seen a sample size of 30 games now. This will be, and he's 13-16 right now. Loses 13-17, which is Charlie Pell's start, but that was an 0-10-1 beginning with that season was kind of an anomaly. You got to go back to the 40s to like Raymond Wolf. I always joke with Mark Long, I'm like, Raymond Wolf's family, I sure hope doesn't listen to any of this stuff, because man gets brought up every time there's something bad going on around here. But it's like, it's just, the record is just what it is. And you look at the Swamp record, you're 10-6.
Yeah, that's bad.
Dan Mullen, Urban was 35-5, and Spurrier, of course, 68-5. So they have less losses than Billy in less than 3 seasons. He loses another. Will Muschamp lost 7 games at home. He was 17-7. Will Muschamp lost his job for many reasons, but one of the biggest, he couldn't protect the home field. And so there's just, everywhere you look, there's things where you're like, it just isn't working. So he's got to win this game and compete at Tennessee well, the Gators, and then beat Kentucky on homecoming. and he'll be coaching in November. But if that isn't what happens, I don't know. Maybe something will happen during that bye week.
I still think he'll be coaching the whole year. That's just my
I
opinion.
think he should be, but look,
I mean, like you said, making a change, all it's going to do is cause us to have to pay out more money.
well, you need to have some fans and you need fans to show up. Do you want fans showing up at home? Mark Long brought this up, showing up to homecoming, booing the team. Do you want them showing up on senior night, booing the team and cheering for Lane Kiffin? I mean, it could get kind of ugly in those kinds of ways, but I don't know how if you base your decisions on that though.
Yeah. All right, Edgar, good stuff as always. Got any good articles before we get out of here?
I'm actually going to today hopefully get this one knocked out. I'm writing something on the new basketball player, Ruben Chinyello, from African kid, 6'11", 255, transferred from Washington State. You should see this guy, Shane. 6'11", he just runs. He's fluid, runs down the court. He's going to be a force, as Todd points out, if he can stay out of foul trouble, because he's plays so aggressively. He might pick up some ticky-tack fouls. But I'm working on that, but I'll see you at the game tomorrow.
All right, Edgar, appreciate your time. That's Edgar Thompson from the Orlando Sentinel. Join us on the Titan Bar Highline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Ruse Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Have a great weekend, folks. We'll see you here on Monday. Take care.